Cliffe Knechtle is a Christian minister who's had an active ministry for over 40 years. He goes to college campuses around the country interacting with students, arguing for Jesus as the answer. And he has had a measure of success, especially it seems recently. In the videos he posts, he can be persuasive, and students very often concede to his arguments, or at least agree to think about what he said. I think that's all well and good, if Christianity is true, if his arguments are valid, but I don't think they are. I often cringe at how persuasive his arguments seem to be, despite their not really making sense when analyzed. Because his church is located in my neck of the woods in New England, I made a major effort to talk to him in person. I attended a Sunday service of his, and at a newcomers meeting afterward, I asked for a 2-hour sit-down to discuss Christianity. I offered to pay him for his time or make a nice contribution to the church, but he said he does not have the time, and he does not do things for money. But he'd be willing to talk to me maybe for 20 minutes over the phone later in the week. And he agreed to being recorded. So here is that conversation. But first, let me show you a brief clip of one of his videos to give you an idea of what his interactions with college students are like.
Yada, yada, yada. But what I'm getting at here is that you at least proclaim, and I happen to believe this too, that you are you know what you're talking about, and you're good at it.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know, I've heard you talk to a couple of people around here.
Yeah?
And I mean, you beat them. You beat them.
No, I didn't beat him.
No, you did. You did.
My desire is not to beat people. My desire is to introduce people to Christ. Now, if they raise intellectual smoke screens that they use to run away from Christ, I will seek to expose that. And I certainly hope that if you see me using intellectual smoke screens to run away from reality, you'll try to expose that.
Of course.
Because we're pursuing truth.
You're pursuing truth.
Yeah. What's real? What's true?
And you're doing what's right?
Okay. So what are you trying to do right now?
Well, what I want to do right now is to explain, and you know this, but that's, I don't know, I think it's a pile of horse.
Okay, why do you think Christ is a pile of horse?
No, not that. How your whole thing.
Okay, now let's see how my conversation with Cliffe went. I add commentary to illuminate what is really going on in this conversation. The flaws in his arguments are not readily apparent. They need careful analysis.
Hello?
Hi, this is Mickey Jaco. Is Cliffe there?
This is Cliffe, Mickey. How are you?
Yeah, hi, very good. Do you have time now or maybe soon?
No, I don't. Sorry, Mickey. I'm real busy under the gun.
Anytime? By any time, I meant any time in the future, next week or whatever. I wasn't asking that he drop what he was doing and attend to me right now. I suspect Cliffe was very busy because of an uptick in his ministry recently. He appeared on the George Janko Show, a Christian who has 2.5 million subscribers, and who used to be a buddy of Logan Paul's before they split over religious differences.
No, sir. No.
One question?
You bet. One question. What is it?
So now, big problem people have with Jesus is the teaching of hell. Now, hell sits okay with you?
No, hell does not sit okay with me. I'm very concerned about people going to hell, but hell makes total sense when you consider the justice of God, the goodness of God. If I love Mickey and someone hurts Mickey and I'm not angry, then I don't really love Mickey. So God's anger over evil is because he really loves people. Secondly, it's because people really matter.
Okay,
if
all right.
Totally insignificant, then it's not going to matter to me if someone runs over you. But if you do matter, then I have to be angry and respond to someone running you over. So that's why there's a hell.
Okay, but the key, I think, is the nature of hell is that it's forever and it's tormenting. That seems awfully cruel.
I don't know how you can reach that conclusion in light of the fact that Jesus calls hell outer darkness and also fire. I don't know how you can conclude that in light of the fact that in Matthew 25, Jesus says that hell was prepared for the devil and his angels, in light of the fact that the devil and his angels are spiritual beings, not physical beings.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can conclude that that hell is physical torment.
There's a debating term called Gish Galloping, which is based on a Christian, Dwayne Gish, whose normal debating trick was to reel off one statement after another without stopping, so that the opponent could not respond in a timely way to any of his statements, let alone even remember them. Cliffe tends to do a shorter version of this technique. Here, for example, reeling off 4 statements, each of which is not valid and does not really address the issue. Number 1, Cliffe says he doesn't know how I can reach the conclusion that hell is cruel in light of the fact that Jesus calls hell outer darkness and also fire. The point Cliffe is making here is that Jesus refers to hell in contradictory symbolic terms. Fire is bright, outer darkness is not. So therefore, we shouldn't think of hell as necessarily burning in fire. But the predominant image Jesus uses is fire, flame, furnace. So contradictory imagery is not a valid reason for Cliffe to soft pedal Jesus' predominant imagery of hell as fire. Number 2, Cliffe says that in Matthew 25, Jesus says that hell was prepared for the devil and his angels. Cliffe's implication is that hell is for the devil and his angels, not so much for us humans. But Cliffe took that line right out of context. The context is human beings being separated and judged, and those on the left being sent to hell. So Cliffe's vague implication that hell was not meant for us humans is not a valid argument against the cruelty of hell. Matthew 25 clearly shows that hell is indeed intended for us human beings. Number 3, Cliffe says the devil and his angels are spiritual beings, not physical beings. But even spiritual beings are sentient, and tormenting them endlessly is cruel. And number 4, I don't know how you conclude that hell is physical torment. But I am not concluding that hell is physical torment, only that hell is some kind of torment, based on Revelation 20:10, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Whether hell is physical or spiritual torment is irrelevant. It's torment, and it's forever. Cliffe's implication that if it's not physical torment, it's not so cruel, is not a valid point. But it says so in Revelation 20:10. They will be
Revelation is highly apocalyptic literature, highly symbolic.
Yeah, but it says they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. The claim of symbolism does nothing to mitigate the cruelty that symbolism points to. And how do you torment someone symbolically? Cliffe's point that the book of Revelation is symbolic is irrelevant.
Revelation is highly apocalyptic literature, highly symbolic. So
even if
Revelation is giving us a photograph of hell, I think is a little presumptuous.
No, I don't think that. But hell is symbolic of what? Of extreme
separation from God.
I was going to say that symbols are not meaningless. They point to an underlying reality. So you cannot legitimately dismiss symbols as just symbols.
Separation from God.
No. Well, yes it is, but also suffering. I mean, serious suffering. This is a standard trick of Christians. They immediately define hell as essentially separation from God and gloss over the severe active suffering part, which is a fundamental feature of Jesus' presentation of hell.
Yes, there will be suffering, but how long that suffering will endure, will that suffering be spiritual or physical?
Well, it'll be...
The Bible is not clear, and if the Bible
is not clear,
I'm not going to add to the Bible.
It is clear. It says forever and ever.
Yeah, and it's possible that you are dead out of existence forever and ever.
Well, no. How can you be tormented forever and ever if you're dead and out of existence?
Because you are separated from God, and that is a clear contradiction of what the beauty of life is when you're in heaven with God.
Yeah, but you're not sticking to what the Bible says.
Oh, I sure am sticking to what it says.
I was going to make the point that there are passages in the Bible that support 3 different understandings of the afterlife for bad people. Eternal conscious torment, burning in hell. Annihilationism, simply ceasing to exist. And universalism, everybody ultimately gets reconciled to God. And that these 3 interpretations are absolutely contradictory. And therefore, the Bible is not trustworthy. But I wasn't able to get this point in our conversation. Yeah, but you're not sticking to what the Bible says.
Oh, I sure am sticking to what it says. I would argue that you're being overly wooden in your interpretation.
Christians love to point out to non-Christians that when Jesus said, "I am the vine," or "I am the door," he did not mean he was a literal vine or door. As if non-Christians don't understand what figurative language is. As if pulling out 1 or 2 figurative examples of Scripture implies that any passage can be interpreted as figurative.
When Jesus said, I am the vine.
No. I understand that.
He's not claiming to be plant life, Mickey.
I understand that.
Mickey, listen, otherwise we're going to have to end this real soon.
Yeah.
So, when hell is pictured in so many varied ways, with very little specificity,
yeah.
By the same token, so is heaven. There is no photograph of heaven, there is no photograph of hell anywhere in the Bible. So we have to be very humble and very careful in the way we interpret and conclude what heaven and hell are. Yeah,
but you can interpret hell as whatchamacallit, total annihilation, or eternal conscious torment, or
that's right, and many devout Christians do both of those. So therefore, Mickey, I would argue it's not that clear. Because
right.
Equally devoted Christians are not in total agreement because the Bible is not as clear as people would like to make it.
In other words, it's not trustworthy. I mean, so that's the problem I have.
Oh, no, it's totally trustworthy. Just because a text does not answer certain questions does not mean it's not trustworthy.
But
no biology textbook answers all the difficult questions in biology.
Revelations.
No chemistry textbook answers all the difficult questions about chemistry.
That's beside.
So the demand that the Bible answer all difficult questions is incredibly intellectually naive.
That's not the point, Cliffe. Not the point at all. The point is.
Well, then I guess this conversation's got to come to a close because I thought it was exactly the point you were raising. I thought you were asking me about heaven and hell, and I'm giving you straight, hard answers. Maybe you don't like them, and that's fine. It's your prerogative. But I'm answering you directly. Christians are experts at deflection. They intuitively avoid the relevant and specific aspect of the issue and start expounding on some general, irrelevant truism. Here, Cliffe does not address how torturing people endlessly is merciful, but goes on about how one cannot expect the Bible to answer all difficult questions. I'm not asking that all difficult questions be answered, but that the question of hell be answered. He claims he has given me honest, straight answers when he has done nothing at all to explain how hell, eternal conscious torment, is a loving and fair doctrine. I had not intended to call Cliffe a phony, but rather to carefully and objectively challenge his statements. But I was so frustrated by his not answering me directly, by his deflections, by his smoke screens, and his bulldozing his ideas over mine, I did go ahead and say what I felt, that he was a phony. You're a giant phony, Cliffe. Absolute phony. Oh, no, I think you're being a real rascal right now, Mickey. No, you won't talk to me, and you talk over me. I mean, I've seen you before. Mickey, I don't have time to be on the phone right now. I've got so many people I've got to call. Yeah. I'm sorry. I've told you that right from the start. Okay, yeah. I've been very honest with you. I've been phony at all. Very honest with you. You said you'd talk to me for 20 minutes, and you're not. So. Not right now. That's right. Okay. Well, then give me a call in the future.
Will you give me a call in the future and we can talk about these things? I mean, you don't listen to any of my points and you say your points that are not really relevant to say.
That's totally false. I'm listening to your points. I'm addressing the exact issues that you've raised, which is the eternal torment of hell. That's what you raised, and that's what I'm answering.
Yeah, in a way that's not. When people, my sister's in hell. I'm gonna go to hell because you won't talk to me.
You don't know your sister's in hell.
Yeah, I do. Because
no,
because people who don't believe in Jesus go to hell.
You don't know what your sister decided just before she died.
Yes, I do. I know. Right. Well, I'm going to hell. I know my atheist friend from college is going to hell.
You don't know what a person decides just before they draw their last breath.
Yeah, but it's 99. My sister died of breast cancer in 2006. Now, do I know 100% what my sister decided? No. But 99.9%, yes. We talked about death and afterlife when she was on her deathbed. There was no talk of Christianity at all. She asked what I thought about the afterlife. I told her it seems like it could be two things. One, there might be nothing. And if that's the case, you don't have to worry because not existing anymore won't bother you since you don't exist anymore. And two, if there is an afterlife and a judgment, you don't have to worry because you've been a decent person. She responded, that sounds good to me. She died a few days later, not as a Christian. And she is, according to conservative Christian doctrine, in hell.
You don't know what a person decides just before they draw their last breath.
Yeah, but it's 99...
This is a classic example of it.
Who?
The thief on the cross is a classic example of it.
Well, that's not fair either. That was one of my questions. Why does he get to go to heaven even though he's a horrible thief and my atheist friend goes to hell? Why is that? And he's a good guy. Why is that fair?
We all have a sin problem, and the thief on the cross put his faith in Christ in his dying moment.
I asked, why is that fair? And Cliffe responded with, we all have a sin problem. See what I mean about deflecting? He answered in a general truism instead of answering the question. Instead of answering directly, he launches into teaching, preaching mode and starts expounding on Christian doctrine. So faith is what counts, not works.
That's correct.
No, I think that's
a genuine faith is shown by work. So if the thief would have gotten off the cross, his genuine faith would have been shown in the way he worked his life out.
Might have, but my atheist friend still goes to hell no matter what.
You don't know what your atheist friend decided before he drew his last breath.
That doesn't make any difference. A lot of people. How about the 6 million Jews that went to that died in the Holocaust? They don't go to heaven.
That's not true. You don't know what a person decides. That's incredibly judgmental for me to say.
That
anybody's going to hell. I don't know that. Only God knows that.
The question is, why is it fair that non-believers go to hell? And Cliffe deflects by saying it's judgmental to say anyone is going to hell. He says it very clearly if you don't believe in him. John 3:18.
So that's between you and God, and that's between every one of us and God.
Again, Cliffe deflects and puts up a smokescreen. The question is, why is it fair that non-believers go to hell? And Cliffe responds with an irrelevant general truism that it's between every one of us and God.
And that's between every one of us and God.
Yeah, and so
me and another person and God.
You really think that those people who went to their deaths in the Holocaust died as Christians? No, they died as Jews.
There are going to be a lot of Jews in heaven. The Bible talks about it. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob were all Jews.
The issue is that according to John 3:18, non-believers are going to hell. And Cliffe deflects by pointing out there are many pre-Jesus Jews in heaven, like Abraham and Isaac. But we're not talking about them. We're talking about the 6 million post-Jesus Jews who were not believers in Jesus. How can there be?
There are going to be a ton of Jews in heaven.
But they don't believe in Jesus.
Yeah, Abraham never heard of Jesus, but to the best of his ability...
That's not the point!
We've talked a bit now. I got to get going, all right?
All right.
Thank you for calling. You have a good day.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah. Let me finish with clips from another one of Cliffe's videos. Here, a young woman, very impressive to me, by the way, tries to get Cliffe to answer the same question I had about hell. Is it loving of God to condemn non-believers to hell? But Cliffe throws up one intellectual smokescreen after another.
So what loving and merciful and forgiving God would subject his children, his creations, that we are as flawed as we are, who really deserves an eternity of torment? I don't know, to me it just seems arrogant to believe that that Christianity is the true religion, just like...
Good. Okay, so how many ways are there to heaven?
By which definition?
By your definition.
I don't have a definition. Every religion has their own set of beliefs for their salvation, for their paradise, if they have a paradise in their religion.
Ma'am, come on now. I think you're stepping into a hole here. You stepped forward and said, I think it's incredibly arrogant for Christians to say that there's only one way. That's what Jesus claimed. Okay, I've heard you. I respect your position. You're making a truth claim. It's arrogant, it's narrow-minded for Jesus to claim that he's the way to heaven. Okay, so now tell me what's humble.
Perhaps I should rephrase this and say, is it actually loving to exclude others because they have the same convictions as you do, but for a different religion?
Ma'am, if I tell you that 2 plus 2 equals 4 and not 3 or 5, is that arrogant of me?
I would say so.
Okay, good. When I say that 2 plus 2 equals 4, not 3 and not 5, and when I tell you that if you think 2 plus 2 equals 6, you're wrong, that is not necessarily arrogant of me. Rather, it is a truth claim. The reason I asked you the question, how many ways are there to heaven from your perspective, is because you're getting really upset with Jesus for saying, I am the way to heaven.
I'm not getting upset with Jesus. I'm asking you, do you think, why should others be excluded from a paradise just because they believe in something different, as much as you do? And they believe as much as you do. How are they wrong? How do you know they're wrong? Because in their minds, you're the wrong.
For the same...
How do they know
How do you know that someone who says 2 plus 2 equals 5 is wrong? Why do you believe, in one sense, why are you so arrogant to tell a person who believes that 2 plus 2 equals 6 that they're wrong? Is that arrogance?
Well, but their beliefs to them are 2 plus 2 equals 4, and your 2 plus 2 equals 5.
No, ma'am. When you say to someone who says 2 plus 2 equals 5, you're wrong, how can you be so arrogant to tell them they're wrong? Your point is, if you're really open-minded, you believe everything is equally true. Isn't that your point?
No.
Okay, what is your point?
My point was that other religions believe that their way is the 2 plus 2 equals 4. That their way is the truth.
Yes.
Just as much as you do.
Yes.
So what makes you think it's okay to condemn other religions just for believing in their personal truth?
I'm not condemning other religions.
Yes, he is. Cliffe is not condemning other religions specifically at this moment, but that is in fact his position. He condemns all who do not accept Jesus as Lord.
My personal opinion is that it doesn't seem particularly loving to condemn others to eternal torment just because they have different beliefs.
Nobody's going to hell because they got different beliefs. People go to hell for 2 reasons. First of all, because they do evil, they destroy others, they destroy themselves, that's sin. And secondly, because they choose to live their life separate from God.
Cliffe says nobody is going to hell because they've got different beliefs, and that people go to hell because they choose to live their lives separate from God. But what he means is, his God, the Christian God. That's the presupposition he sneaks in. So when sincere seekers decide against Christianity, they are choosing to live their lives separate from Cliffe's God. Cliffe has basically said no one goes to hell because they have different beliefs, but also says that if you decide on a different God than his, you are going to hell. That is contradictory, yet he's presented it in such a way that it's hard to pick up on that. I have personally rejected Christianity for a more reasonable version of God, and I'm pretty sure that if I asked Cliffe if I'm going to hell, he would not give me an honest, straight answer. He would not give me a yes, but he would deflect and launch into, that's up to God, not me. God gives us our free will choice. God is holy. He cannot abide sin. Yada, yada, yada.
The reason I've been banging away on this truth issue so strong is because the legitimacy of faith is not determined by its sincerity. It's determined by the legitimacy of the object that your faith is in. Example, I got a ton of faith in thin ice. I don't care how much faith I have. I don't care how sincere my faith is. When I walk out on thin ice, I'm going down. I'm going through. Why? Because the object of my faith, thin ice, is not reliable. If I have a little bit of faith in thick ice, when I walk out on that ice, I don't go through. Why is my faith legitimate? Credible. Because the object of my faith, the thick ice, is reliable, credible. He's a good foundation, but you have to make a decision. Your decision is, no, Christ, you're not. Instead, money, science, a career, myself.
Another religion that my personal views define as thick ice. It's like if I was Buddhist,
Yeah.
Buddhism would be my thick ice. Your beliefs would be thin ice.
Okay, well, that's the question, isn't it? That's why you have to use your mind and explore the evidence.
I agree with Cliffe that the sincerity of your faith is not the key, but the legitimacy of the concept that you have faith in. That, for example, you can walk safely on thick ice, but not thin ice. Of course, that example immediately brings to my mind the concept of what Jesus believed in, that you can walk directly on water if your faith is strong. I can't trust in the reliability of a man who constantly overstates and ignores reality. You cannot walk on water no matter how strong your faith.
I'm not here to argue which religion is true. My original first overarching question was, is it really reflective of a loving God to not forgive just because they believe in a different thick ice? Is that loving? Is that forgiving? Is that merciful?
And I've answered you. That is not the issue.
No, you have not answered her. You deflected from her question, which was, is it merciful for God to torment people forever for believing in something other than Christianity? And you subtly changed the issue to, what is it that sends us to hell? You threw up a smokescreen. We humans are not on trial in this argument. Your God is. And we humans have every right, in fact it's our duty, to evaluate the morality of various gods, whether it's Thor, Zeus, Allah, or the Christian God.
I've told you very, very clearly, the issue is because we've done evil, because we've destroyed, and secondly, because we do not want to live together with God. Those are the only two reasons we go to hell. Not because we get confused, not because we make a mistake. No one's going to hell because of lack of knowledge, because they're not smart. No one's going to hell because
I never said that.
a lack of information. It's simply an issue of, I have done evil, and I've walked away from God. That's why I deserve hell. But Christ comes lovingly, calling me back to himself, back to God. And if I say, no, I'm checking out, then I will suffer the consequences of the wrong that I've done and bear the responsibility of walking away from God by exercising my free will in saying, Stay away.
Christians constantly argue from the unwarranted presupposition that the Christian God is the true God in the first place. A Muslim can make the exact same argument, that if you turn your back on Muhammad and Allah, you will go to hell, if he presupposes his religion is true in the first place.
I asked a yes or no question, but it's okay.
And you know by now that I don't give yes or no answers.
That's fair. That's okay.
As though this is a virtue on his part. It is a virtue to understand that life comes in shades of gray, and there are many issues in which demanding a yes or no answer can be unreasonable or superficial. But the issue of hell is not one of them. There's an answer to the young lady's question, and the answer is no. The concept of hell does not reflect a merciful God. It reflects an obscenely cruel God. And Cliffe's response that he doesn't give yes or no answers is yet another smokescreen he has thrown up to obscure the insane cruelty of his God.
Ma'am, there is no way that you can ask that type of complex question, which I respect highly, and expect a yes or no answer. That's impossible.
That's not true. This is one of the many questions about Christianity that can be answered yes or no. John 3:18 is very clear. He who does not believe is condemned. After my phone call to Cliffe, I sent him a short email. Just to be clear, I do not mean to call you a phony as a human being. I meant theologically. It really disturbs me when human beings can subjectively interpret the doctrine of hell as an expression of love and justice, when even a third grader knows it's an expression of hate, obscene cruelty, and religious extremism.
And I certainly hope that if you see me using intellectual smokescreens to run away from reality, you'll try to expose that.
Maybe I'll have some interaction again with Cliffe in the future, I don't know. Thanks for watching, and check my website for videos on virtually every important issue on Christianity.